Hey guys, Amy here, host and producer of the Eerie Excursion podcast, the podcast that collects eerie tales from around the UK as told by local tour guides and experts. Now, I've been all over the country collecting stories, which I cannot wait to share with you. Season 1 is actually already out now, and I'll do a bit of a recap next week, but you can listen already if you follow the link below to the YouTube page or wherever you get your podcasts. But this week, I wanted to give you a bit of a sneak look at what's coming up in season 2 because I went to some really cool places and met some amazing guides. So, season 2 will kick off on the 17th of September 2025, and the first episode will take place in London. Now, most people know London as this big modern metropolis, but as my guide Alan Aspinall told me, it's been inhabited for about 2,000 years. It first started life as a Roman fort around 43 AD. So yeah, it's seen a lot in that time because it's been consistently inhabited. Now, my favourite stories from this episode involves London's most famous prison, which is Newgate Prison. Now, for those who don't know, Newgate opened in 1769. This video you're watching right now isn't actually Newgate because the prison was demolished in 1902, but it is the site where it used to be. So this currently is the Old Bailey, which is a courthouse. Still used today. But conditions inside Newgate were truly, truly awful. It was the first jail to receive prisoners from other parts of the country, so overcrowding was very common. And you were all mixed together. All the prisoners were mixed together, whether you're a murderer, a thief, a rapist, whatever you did, you were all just mixed together. There were two stories Alan told me here. One was about a famous prisoner called Jack Shepherd. No, he's no relation to Jack the Ripper. Jack was a bit of a cheeky thief. He had been sent to prison a few times before he landed in Newgate. He was kind of like an 18th century Houdini or David Blaine. I can't really think of any more modern examples. Anyway, Jack basically became famous for escaping prisons, and his last stint was in Newgate. So I'll tell you about that one. Now, the second is much darker and involves dark magic and a black dog enacting revenge on behalf of the dead. It's a truly terrifying tale. And so moving on this season, we'll be doing a double feature the week of Halloween. We'll be going to Whitby and Scarborough. Now, if you're a fan of horror novels and specifically vampires, you may recognize the name Whitby. It's the town that inspired Dracula and features quite heavily in the novel. I would definitely suggest tuning in for that one if you're a fan of Bram Stoker's masterpiece. Then Scarborough was a funny old one. Any Brits, especially in the north, will tell you it's the place to go if you want a proper British seaside adventure. There are arcades, there is amusements, there's just fish and chip shops everywhere, seagulls everywhere. But don't let the bright lights of the arcades fool you. This town was once a Viking settlement and has played host to a lot of celebrities, from Britain's least popular king, King John, to the Bronte sisters. In fact, you can actually visit the grave of Anne Bronte, who died there in 1849. We went just before recording, and honestly, I cannot tell you, I just felt so weird in that graveyard. I mean, the deathly silence, you could only hear the seagulls squawking. It's a true atmosphere. Now, my guide here was Leah, and one of my favourite tales that she told me was about a ghost ship.
Your instinct is to hide behind the bar, but the innkeeper calmly walks to the front door and he looks out. But there's nobody there. You join him on the step and you look up and down the street just in time to catch a glimpse of a headless woman disappearing into the mist. And then you breathe a sigh of relief, because this is the spirit of Elvira. She was a ship's figurehead that used to stand right here in front of the three mariners. Legend has it her spirit manifests itself and comes to warn sailors of impending storms at sea.
So, we'll also be hearing about one of England's most famous witch trials, the Pendle Witches, which will be in the Lancaster episode in December. Essentially, the story of the Pendle Witches focuses on two rival families who each accuse the other of witchcraft in the 17th century. Now, this is a time where James I was on the throne. He was undoubtedly the most cautious king about witches. I think cautious might be an understatement. As my Lancaster guide, Pete, described.
So he had this sort of almost fascination with witches and the occult, and he wrote a book called Demonology, essentially proclaiming that there was sects of witches, particularly focused around the north of England and Scotland, and they were to be rounded up, and if identified as a witch, put to trial.
So the video you saw there, that was Lancaster Castle, which was where the Pendle Witches were kept. Of course, I go to many more places, and I'm super excited for you to hear them all. Now, to make sure you don't miss an episode, you can subscribe below on YouTube, or you can find Eerie Excursions on Spotify, Apple, or Amazon.